My head keeps jumping around to different things. I hope you guys can keep up with me.
That's okay, these don't have to be in order.
Well, I didn't expect them to be in order, but I just have to tell what I remember, and I know there's a lot of things that I don't remember that goes with the story. So if I sound befuddled, just think, well, she's old, she can't help it. Anyway, I'm jumping back to childhood in Indiana again. Like I said, my dad loved square dance, and he always did that, and I had kind of forgotten it, but Debbie reminded me how Grandpa could call square dances. He could be the caller, and he did so quite a few times. I just love my dad.
Good man.
Another important thing that I want you guys to know about my mom and dad was that they weren't fanatically religious, but they were very religious. My mom read the Bible from cover to cover to her kids, just weeks or months, wasn't very long, wasn't a year, till she died. But I never will forget, she closed up the page, the last page, and she says, well, don't ever let it be said that your mom didn't read the Bible to you. And
Family home evening at the Buskirk house.
every night. I think farmers back then had that, you know. And then also, Mom and Dad didn't belong to any one denomination. Now, Dad's family was United Brethren Church that he liked, but we didn't have a car, and so when we went to church, we all had to walk. And I think back now how hard that must have been for Mom to try to get all of the kids ready and then walk to church. My mom was very pretty, and I'm not just prejudiced. I mean, everybody used to say how pretty she was. But the last church that Mom went to before she died, the preacher's name was Brother Johnson, and my dad didn't like him at all because he always talked about Sister Buskirk and how beautiful she was to the congregation, not just in, conversation with one person or two. But anyway, but there was one time that we all walked in, and you know how people have a tendency to sit in the back, so we always had to march down to the front. And our preacher Johnson said, here comes Sister Buskirk and her little children. Isn't she just a beautiful person, a wonderful sight that you'd want to just hang on to? My dad sat there with his eyebrows pinched, and he didn't like him talking about Mom that way,
All 9 of you kids.
That kind of reminds me of my daddy. He didn't like people talking about my mama either.
My dad used to sleep in church most of the time, but in the Protestant church, if you agree with what the preacher's teaching, you'll say amen, like at the end of a sentence that he says, amen, that means you agree with them or whatever. And my dad would sleep most of the time in church, but he always knew when to say amen. I mean, he always said amen. But and then my dad could sing pretty good, and we didn't have choir or anything like that. But the I don't know what you call it, the harmony part of, like, for instance, they had the song about the little brown church in the Vale, and then the people with a low voice would go,
The
oh,
bass.
come, you know, while the other people would say, oh, come to the church in the wildwood. But anyway, Dad would always, you know, sing. He had a real nice voice, he did. And, but anyway, that and him eating his peppermints because for his stomach, you know. And he always did that in church. I remember one time there was this old lady in the church, and her name was Mrs. Waterman, and she got up and sang a solo every Sunday, and it was usually the same song that she would sing. And when she would, I don't know if she had palsy or what, but anyway, when she'd sing, she would shake her head like this, you know. And Flo and I thought that was so funny, and we was laughing, and Mom reached over and slapped both of us in the mouth. Because we weren't supposed to be making fun of people, but we thought it was pretty funny.
Backhand you.
Yeah, and like I said, we were very poor, and I can remember Mom always wearing the Bob and Bill's tennis shoes after they got too old to wear to school, and she would take those, instead of buying herself a pair of shoes that fit, she just took those leftover shoes from Bob and Bill, which was probably pretty much worn out themselves. And we, for Easter, we always got 2 times a year we got shoes, and the one new shoes was when we started school and then Easter time. And Mom would take the shoe boxes and make Easter baskets out of them, buy the new shoes for each of us, and then out of our box the shoes came in, she would decorate up and make it the Easter baskets out of them.
What did you have in your Easter
It's
basket?
funny, I was getting ready to ask that same thing.
I'm just curious.
You said, did I have any?
Yeah,
I
what
said,
was in your baskets?
What was in your Easter basket?
Oh, we'd have, it seemed like mostly jelly beans, but we had jelly beans and just a candy bar, nothing you'd think about Easter with it, just, but, you know, we loved them, and so I guess Mom got what we liked, but, and then always, we had so many eggs all the time, and she had boiled a lot of eggs up and would color them, you know, and that kind of, I don't know, Mom and Mary, in my mind, goes together so close because Mary took such good care of us kids when Mom was sick and afterwards. But back in those days, people only took a bath once a week. They'd bring in those big galvanized tubs and put it in the kitchen, and everybody would jump in and never change the water, but jump in one after the other, you know. And but my sister Mary always insisted. She always said, we don't have much, but we can be clean, and so she would always give us a bath before we went to bed. She says, you never know when the angels are going to come get you, so you must have clean underwear, you know. And
That's so cute.
Mm-hmm. But
Was Mary and your mom awfully close?
mm-hmm. And then Mary would, so we'd always look nice for school. She would always polish our shoes every night after we took them off and we'd taken our bath, and she had them all lined up on a newspaper and for us to put on the next morning when we went to school, that they was nice and clean. There was a time when that we were on county welfare, and they would give you these gunny sacks. Those for what the grain was in stuff was gunny sacks, and most of the time you see gunny sacks, you look at those kind of brown colored things that are I don't know what what you call it. But anyway, these were had print on them some kind, like might be checked, it might be flowers, it might be whatever. But they would give you material to make your daughter's clothes or boys' shirts or whatever. And you can always know who was on county welfare because more than likely they had the same material as you did.
That was during the Depression, right?
Yeah. And people then were standing in line for hours to get a loaf of bread. They didn't do it like how we do it nowadays, you know. You had to go down and pick what you needed and come and get it and take it home. But like I said, they didn't make the dresses for you, but they gave you the material out of those gunny sacks that you could have it, you know. And
Who made the dresses? Was that Mary?
Mary, she never needed a pattern, and she could just cut it out, lay it on the floor, cut it out, sew it together, and there would be your dress, you know.
That's talent.
Mm-hmm. Later on, when she was married to Everett, he was so nervous he couldn't stand any noise at all. And Mary was sewing one time, and Everett told her to shut that machine up. He's tired of listening to it. And Mary never used it again after that. She always sewed by hand, would sew the clothes together by hand.
That was so abused.
Mhm.
That was wrong.
Yeah, he was, I don't like speaking ill of the dead, but I just don't know how. He loved Mary to death. He was very, very jealous of her. He never called her Mary. He always called her honey. That's the only thing I ever heard him call her. And one time at the square dance, this one guy thought that Mary's name was Honey. You know, they named her that. And he says, "Honey, would you do this square dance with me?" And Everett says, "You silly SOB, don't you ever call her that again. She's married to you." You know? And he wouldn't let him call, you know, the same name or whatever. And